We all know the consumer brands that feel effortless. You send flowers and they arrive exactly when they're supposed to. You open an email and somehow it feels timely, relevant, even human. But what most people never see is the layer underneath those moments. The partnerships, the platforms, and most importantly, the people quietly making the machine work. Our guest today is Chris Adamo, who spent years operating at that layer. He helped build and scale relationships at 1-800-Flowers, one of the most recognizable consumer brands in the world, a place where commerce, media, and customer experience collide at a massive scale. And then, instead of staying in a comfortable corporate swim lane, he stepped out. He chose to build. And now he's the founder of Letterhead, an AI-powered platform helping big brands and enterprise media rethink how newsletters are created, managed, distributed, and monetized. At the same time, he's been doing something just as ambitious. He's building startups and community in Miami, a city not traditionally known for tech, but increasingly becoming one. Not through hype, but through relationships with operators and real companies being built on the ground. This is a conversation about what happens when you take consumer brand discipline and combine it with community and apply it somewhere new. This is about choosing a path different than the default. And this is about why Miami might be one of the most interesting frontiers for the next generation of tech companies. So with that, I'm Jinx Joglekar.
I'm Manish Ral.
And this is The Art of Commerce. Let's get into it.
The Art of Commerce is a podcast featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. Hosted by Anish, a data-obsessed creative director, and Jinx, a growth-obsessed CMO. Listen on for actionable insights for the modern marketer.
Chris, so great to have you.
Guys, amazing to see you both. It's been a good 26 so far. Lots going on. We had a great time in CES, Jinx. That was awesome.
We did.
That was fun. Vegas kicked it off, and we're off and running.
That's awesome, man. Well, and I gotta say, like we said it prior to the pod, but I gotta put it on record. Chris has got the best swag, one of the best swag games in tech. Like
you can
the
see it right now on your screens.
You can see it on your screen. And I will say, we're gonna get into Chris's background in a second, but I'll say I met Chris at the Association of National Advertisers, Masters of Marketing down in Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
And, we hit it off right away. I mean, Chris has got amazing energy that you guys will see. But what I got to say is his company, Letterhead, speaking of swag, gave us the best swag, which was these, for the folks who can't see, human generated and storyteller. And so I got to say also, because this is great swag, the best trade show thing I've ever seen. Rather than give out some tchotchkes and stuff, they actually were giving out books, like from the local bookstore.
Oh, wow.
And so I got Toad and Frog Adventures for my daughter. It was like the greatest thing ever. She still reads it every day. So Chris, you're the man. Great. Letterhead's the shit. So let's get into it.
That is awesome. It's so funny. From that day, actually, we met the head of Random House. And now we have a whole thing with them. They do all our events. They send us free books and authors, and we do all the pop-up bookstores at all the events. And people love it. Really a great situation.
That's unbelievable. See, and that's the thing we talk about, right? Serendipity matters, being there matters, and making those connections matters. And honestly, I'm not surprised you just told that story, Chris, because the thing I instantly recognized from you when we first met was your ability to not only forge relationships, but I think you took my number in 1 minute. You were like, give me your number, let's text. Not a lot of people do that. So it just shows me and should show the rest of everybody how you build. So just, that doesn't surprise me with your relationships. So, all right. Great intro, but let's get into it, man. Start at the beginning. We want to hear the Chris Adamo superhero origin story. Where did you start? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, well, similar story to how we met. I grew up in Queens, New York, in the 80s and 90s, divorced parents. My mom moved literally every single year for about 10 years when I was a kid. So every year I had to start fresh, meet new friends, blend in, become a chameleon. And that skill set is my entire life of just being a really good listener, understanding who people are, what they're into, what they're doing, and being useful. if you're a new kid on the block, you got to be useful at something, right? Whatever it is. If you can hit a baseball far, or, you have a bike to borrow, or, whatever it is, a basement to hang out in, those are the things you had to like find usefulness when you're a kid. And growing up in Queens, I kind of met such a diverse bunch of people living in Queens. Every nationality is represented like on one city block. So I got to know all worlds as a young person. And that proved, very useful throughout, grammar school, high school, college, and then in my working world. And I really saw that as a kid, like when I was like, forced to like go out of my comfort zone to meet new people. That's tough. And that's life. Is like you have to be, if you're in a new job or you're in a new place, you got to make friends and understand how a place operates, and then see how like you can like become part of this world and be useful doing that. And I was lucky. When I was a kid, I was good at baseball, and I got to play baseball across the road. I played in the Junior Olympics in Beijing and in Finland.
Wow.
Played for like mini version of Team USA back then. Got a college scholarship, and I saw the world for free, basically by being good at baseball. I was a utility man. So I was always the kid that can play first, second, third, outfield, whatever. And that's kind of like how my life's become what it is today, to make partnerships happen. And always like, whatever it is, we'll find a way to figure it out and do it. And that's kind of the secret to like my whole journey.
Chris, the Swiss Army knife.
Correct.
Yes, incredible. Why didn't you pursue the athletes back?
What?
Why didn't you continue playing the sports? How did this shift?
Well,
to
the world
corporates
had
happen?
different visions for me, I guess. I got hurt in college. I had 408 discs, and I was never the same. My back was really in shambles for 2 years. I was paralyzed for like a good month. I couldn't get out of bed.
Whoa.
And, those 2 years of not being able to play baseball, I kind of got out of shape, and I started just like, getting distracted with like college life. So by junior year of college, I transferred to Binghamton, and I was going to play there. And my body just wasn't the same as it was when I was 16, 17, 18. And I chose education and fun, which is okay. Sports got me to there to get me to the next level. So life's about this journey of like different parts of your life always lead to something better. I could have played baseball maybe more and like, stuck it out and maybe got, in the minor leagues or something, and probably would never would have made it to the top unless I really, really, really got lucky, or just, it wasn't in the cards for me. But again, it got me to where I am now. So I'm thankful for every day of playing baseball, and I still play now. I coach 6-year-olds. I'm still playing every Wednesday. So it's still part of my life. Yeah.
You saw the world for free because of your sports talents. You got an unfortunate accident which you made a great recovery from, back to playing and coaching again. But tell us about your corporate or your career journey. Like, how did the shift from baseball to working with some of the more known corporates happen? And like how did that shift happen?
Yeah, I mean, out of college, I had like 100 jobs. I think I worked at like, my first real job was selling B mortgages in the crisis. Probably caused that, maybe, who knows?
We found him, guys.
We won't blame you. This isn't a big
21. Yeah, it's like, hey, here's the thing. Go sell it. Okay, right. 6 months I was out of that. I couldn't sell anything. I had one client. If you're a wrestling fan, Bam Bam Bigelow was my first client. The guy with the crazy tattoos on his head.
Yeah.
We became friends. I went to golf with him, met Lawrence Taylor. It was a whole thing, but I was not good at selling mortgages. So my dad had a crazy story. Yeah, I'm a good person. So I'm a good relationship person. My dad worked for 20 years for Home Depot as a manager, and then he got a job at CVS where I could be a manager in New York City. He got me into like this like back-end program for training, like management training, and I took over his store because he had cancer. I took a store over in Queens, and I managed it for like a year and a half. It was a 24-hour pharmacy, and you can only imagine. I actually got sent out to like every store every 2 months to a new store. I started at like Times Square. I mentioned it to my dad's store over when he got sick, and I learned so much about life by managing a big pharmacy and a store in Times Square.
Yeah.
People were like 16 to 70, and I was managing all these people. I was only 23. But you saw everything. I had homeless people in the middle of the store going to the bathroom. I got robbed at knife point. People stealing things left and right. It was just a whole like instantaneous life lesson of how to like manage people and situations. And that is a skill set that I use to this day as a startup founder and investor every single day of my life. And I owe a lot to that job, but I knew I hated it. After 18 months, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. It's insane. I'm working like 20-hour days for like $50K a year. But the lessons I got out of there were amazing. And I left there and I got a call from 1-800-Flowers.com from a recruiter. And he's like, hey, I see you have this cool background with like training programs of like of a pharmacy. would you want to come work at 100 Flowers and like do like, partnerships and it's kind of a startup role within a big company. And I was like, flowers? Why would I want to go sell flowers? It seems insane. But it just went public and it was operating as a startup as a corporation was. So it was in a growth mode. And I was like, you know what? This is a new opportunity. I'm going to learn the ropes of a new corporate entity that I don't know a lot about really, but I know about selling products in real life. So let's go online and sell products, right? So that journey there was 10 years and it was a great journey. I mean, I was the young kid there that got to like do all the fun stuff and like trying to make money in a million different ways. And that was cool because I got to like, work with teams across the enterprise. I got to like work with the CEO pretty closely. And we can go more into that, I think, as we talk more. But that was a big point for me where I went from, not really corporate to corporate, and then after that, I went to Miami and started startups and yada yada yada. Here I am today.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And that last part, though, because we talk to a lot of folks, in our networks, I talk to people all over, and there's a lot of tension between corporate or starting your own thing and making the leap, or can I do it? Do I have a safety net? So like, what was that to make that leap for you from this corporate job to the startup scene to Miami, somewhere? I mean, you're from Queens, man. You're going to Miami. Like, what was the thing in your brain that was like, yeah, I'm going to do that?
To leave the corporate path? Well, I was there for a long time. And I remember this day vividly. I was sitting in my cubicle and I just lost it. I was like, I got to get out of this box. Like literally and figuratively out of this box of like sitting here all day on phone calls. I was going nuts. I basically ran out of there. My boss followed me out. She's like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay. I gotta get out of here." I stayed actually a few more years after that because I ended up building new businesses under their tutelage, and we can talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But I knew like it wasn't. This is it. I'm gonna do something new. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna do my own thing because I'm meeting all these cool companies, working with them. We were working with all the cool ad tech companies, all the new social platforms, all the agencies, all the big brands. We had things that we were doing with them. And I was like, this is the world I want to be in, but not stuck in this corporate office. I want to be out in the world doing it. So that was what I knew. Like that day, I'm like, this is not forever.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I think what you just said about being in the box, like literally the physical box, the mental box, like certainly resonates with me, but I know it resonates with a bunch of people that listen and a bunch of people we've talked to. So amazing. And we'll get into it.
I had a question for you, Chris. When you're working at 100 Flowers and you realized that you had to go out there and do things by yourself, was there a specific moment that made you realize that, or was it something that was bubbling for a long time and then one day you were like, nope, this is not the path for me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much an extrovert, and being forced to be an introvert and sitting in one place all day, I just couldn't do it. Maybe it's like my like ADD or whatever it is that I was undiagnosed, but for sure I had to get out in the world, and I think I was being held back. My boss at the time was very much like keeping wraps on everybody, and he didn't want you to like go expand like into the company. He didn't want you to go out. He wanted you to stay and like make your 50 phone calls a day. I was like, this is not going to happen for me. So I knew that it was destiny for me to kind of leave and do a startup eventually. I didn't know what that even meant at the time, but I started like, this is like early days when Twitter just started. So there wasn't a lot of like stuff to like read up on like how founders operate and what the playbooks were. It didn't exist as it does today. And I think today people had such an advantage to like doing that. Back then, it was really not a reality you can really do. You was just like, you get a job and you stay there for a while and you hope you get a new job and that's better and who knows what happens. But the startup thing wasn't really a thought in my mind until like that day.
So you want to tell us about your first startup? Did you know what you were going to build as you were leaving 100 Flowers, or is it something that you just figured out on the way?
I had no idea. When I got to Miami in 2012, I actually reverse engineered my role. I had to like do the whole Tim Ferriss like 4-hour work week. Like, how can I show them I can work remotely? And there wasn't really a thing to work remotely for 100 Flowers at the time. So I just said, hey, I'm leaving to go to Miami. Can I work from home? And they're like, oh, let's try it out for a couple of weeks and months and see how you do. And I started documenting all the things I did while I was home. And I was more productive at home than I was in the office. And like, okay, we trust you. You'll probably be good. And then we also want to open an office in Miami. So I started doing that for them down there. When I got to Miami, I started working remotely, in the world. And I was meeting all these amazing people. I actually worked at Soho House for a long time on the rooftop. They had an office up there that no one really knew about. And I was meeting all the best people back then. And this is 2012. And that was kind of like the early days of like Soho House. It was like very, very, very exclusive. And you were meeting like all the people from like the worlds of media and art and celebrities and all types of folks. And I just saw opportunities coming at me that I couldn't ignore anymore. And I met young fellows who were starting this thing called the New Tropic. And it was a media company. It was basically a newsletter about Miami and what was happening every day across these like new things happening in this like kind of burgeoning city at the time. Flash forward, 10 years from there, it's a whole new place now. But back then it was very much like getting started almost in the whole new version we know today. So we were all in transplants and we were writing a thing about what's happening every day in Miami, what to do, what to eat, where to go, what's happening legal wise, how to understand the transit system, whatever's happening. And I loved that being like a mix of like, a business that was new and it was media, but also it was like also building, community through our media. So we do a ton of events. A lot of national brands came to us to kind of do things in Miami. And that was a cool cross section of like, a startup tech company, but also, a media writing journalism community company. And I just loved it. So that's actually the story of how I got to here is like through that, I interviewed so many people who are running big companies and young founders and big tech companies. And they're all starting to do things in Miami, which is, again, new for us in the city. So we're all kind of on the ground floor, which is really great. So that's how I kind of found my love for just, doing things from 0 to 1. And then also started angel investing as well, dabbling in the people I was meeting. Even at Flowers, I was doing that too, like meeting people. I was like, wow, that's a cool company. I get in somehow and, you make little small checks back then. 10 years later, some of them did pretty good. So it was a great run. And I really thank my wife for bringing me to Miami because it was the best choice I ever made.
That's amazing. So like that first little venture was, I don't call it little, but that first venture was almost like a journalism thing. And so you're interviewing all these guys and then you're learning about it. And then you become on the other side, the VC and the founder. And so you're like the people you interviewed. So back to the superhero reference, your superhero origin tale. I'm sensing a Clark Kent to Superman kind of vibe from you. So that's tight. So you were nerds here. So we got to put on our references where we can.
I love being nerds. All my friends are nerds. I'm like in the middle of like, I'm like the athlete guy, but also friends of the nerds. So it's like I cross both all the time.
That's right. We're musicians that are nerds. It's all the same. It's all the same. So
exactly.
But one thing I don't want to lose before we get into Letterhead, though, you did allude to the fact of the CEO of 1-800-Flowers. You got to kind of like under his tutelage, even you said, learn about some startup stuff that translated to what you ended up doing in Miami. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, with my first day at 1-800-Flowers, when I worked there, I was very green. And I didn't know anything. And I got in the elevator and there was Jim McCann, the founder and CEO of this big public corporation. And I'm just like, oh, hey, Jim, I'm Chris. My first day here. He's like, amazing. I'm like, I'm from Queens. He's like, so am I. I'm like, oh, whoa, so cool. I was like, I have some ideas to talk to you about. He's like, you do? I'm like, I do. He's like, all right, tell me about them. We had the coffee the next day and it's like, went through like, we should be going on Twitter. We should be, doing all this stuff. I think it's cool. We should release companies. He's like, all right, send me emails. And like, let's start like interacting together. And like my boss was like totally like, you can't do that. I was like, right, why not?
Chain of command,
Yeah. I had no idea what they even meant. So I just always broke the rules from the first day of working there. And I learned a lot by doing that. You have to be, a little bit outgoing, in these corporations to learn and meet people. And I always found that people who are older want to meet people who are younger at companies. And most people who are young don't never talk to anyone who's not like their equal. So if you do that and go out of your way to meet people, they'll become mentors for you instantaneously. Because they're hungry for us. No one really talks to them. They're kind of scared. Like, oh, I can't talk to him. He was like a VP or he's in a different world and I can't do that, but you can. And by doing that, Jim and I started a company under 1-800-Flowers called greatfoods.com. We started selling caviar on the internet, which was not a thing back then. Whoa. It wasn't the right time, but now it's huge.
It's huge, yeah.
But he was a guy that was always like dabble in a thing, let's learn it, see if it works. And if it does, let's double down and let's really invest in it. So under them, I got to like start e-gift cards for us, affiliate programs, airline reward programs, AAA discounts. We even, as a company, we started doing like early day one influencer marketing. So we did a deal with Justin Bieber and gave flowers out at every concert and had a big bouquet on our site called the One Less Lonely Girl Bouquet. We had a Martha Stewart collection with Martha, early days of that. This is before we even had social. So it was like really like hands-on, like, doing stuff in the world. And then eventually social came on to be a thing. And that's where things really blew up and got really, really attractive for e-commerce brands, especially to grow through other communities. And that's what I learned there is like how to grow through other communities is tremendously huge and such an asset. If you could do that in early days of a startup, you don't need to be a big company to do that. You could do it from day one with a small idea. But if you get the right person who is really good at making content with you and has an audience, you can do a lot. And literally all my companies I've invested in and I've worked at, we've done that. And that's like one of the things that I've learned is like my like superhero power is like matching folks together to make things happen, whether it be the right investor or the right partner or, just the right director. And like this person and I can do some big things together. And 100 Flowers, to their testament, they were amazing at that. And they kind of like invented that stuff for e-commerce back then.
Whoa. Chris, what was your role at 100 Flowers?
My title was like, partnership manager or account manager in the corporate division of gift selling. It was not a fancy title, but I was doing things that were not my job because I just wanted to do them. And whatever, I think eventually people really like that. They kind of probably, hey, chill, but this is good. Okay, we're going to do it. So yeah, I had a whole different job. My job was to actually call on corporations and sell them corporate gifts. But I was just like a person that just like, hey, I have this thing. You should probably try this. And eventually people appreciate that. So to this day, I call a lot of folks there and we catch up and we talk and we're always still building things together. And Jim especially has been a great person for me, a really good mentor and super down still. As he has grown that company. Now he's finally semi-retired, which I don't believe, but we'll see.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, no one ever retires. I feel like I was told once, never retire because that means you're going to die. So always do something.
Right. If you're moving, if you're moving, then you'll keep living, right? The other way to look at it.
That's right. If you have reason to live, you'll live.
Yeah. Well, so just to play that back for the folks listening and particularly young folks, Chris had some really good advice. One, like you should be reaching out to folks that are mentors. Don't be afraid. And we've talked about this on the pod before. Don't be afraid when someone says I have an open door policy, like use it, man. Like, and go and talk to people that are VPs and SVPs. And you might be a little intimidated at first, but to Chris's point, they want to talk to you. I mean, that's why like even in my corporate roles, I've always scheduled one-on-ones with everybody just to take the fear out of the room. The other thing is LinkedIn titles are not your remit. Your remit is to do great things and collaborate effectively and go across the lines. And Chris embodies that. But if you go on Chris's LinkedIn, he probably has that corporate title from 1-800-Flowers. Doesn't nearly touch all the things we did. So like, for the young folks that are listening, that are trying to upskill, Chris is just dropping serious knowledge on that.
I mean, I even just started a recent project with the law firm Cooley, a very big corporate tech law firm. They do all the biggest companies in the world that you know of. They've done from day one to post IPO. And I started there maybe like in March or April. And I immediately, of course, just like, cold email like the CEO and the CMO and just hello, I'm Chris. I just started here in the background. I have a lot of ideas I want to talk about. And they were like super welcoming to that and refreshed by that idea because most people there, again, they kind of are in that corporate structure and, they almost know better not to, but I'm just like, I got nothing to lose. I mean, I'm a startup founder turned advisor and investor. I'm here to help you guys. And, I want to do that. So I think if you go in with no fear, it turns out better than, and if you do get fired for doing something, it wasn't the place for you anyway. It's fine. It's actually better off than to be miserable. So learn early.
Keep to your values. I love the no fear thing. That's just because so much of what people we talk about in corporate have this fear of failure, fear of reaching out, fear of like, what if I get rejected? But if you operate with no fear, then you'll be amazed how many connections you make and how much, like to your point, cool stuff you can get into.
It has to come from a good place. That's really, if you have a good intention behind it and no fear, amazing things will happen to you. And that is probably the biggest thing that has made my life such a good life is that I've gone to things with just like the best of intentions. And if someone doesn't like it, it's okay. I know in the greater good of life, it's the right thing to do. And, I had a good intention behind it. So karma really works. I really believe in that. Like we're all this one central universe thing. For me, it's like, if you're doing the right thing for people, it always ends up being good in the end.
How does one practice the no fear mindset? Like, because fear is so innate to us. Like, because fear of losing things that you have, maybe your credibility, your name, or just, striking a conversation. How does one really lose their fear and do great things, like you said?
You gotta just talk to strangers. That's what I do a lot. Just talk to random strangers. These shirts really help. Having Hawaiian shirts very nicely. Because people want to say, hey, nice shirt. I get that a lot. I mean, we probably said it to when I met you, Jinx. I don't remember, but probably that was kind of one of the topics of, hey, cool shirt. So just talk to strangers and learn new things all the time. Like really be curious. Being curious and just like making conversation with people out of nowhere is going to get you so far in life. And now, especially the way the world has turned to being so focused on tech and how there's certain things at our fingertips, like you can learn anything. And that is never, now it's like the playing field is super leveled across every industry, whatever it is, legal, music, you name it. You can go out and do that with a little bit of an idea. Before you had to go get a crazy degree and have no idea what you're doing. But now you can like really like start to like get dangerous in things, right? And it's kind of cool that we're in this place of like, you can do anything if you really, really, really try hard. And I think people are finally starting to see like, I do believe in myself. I can learn anything. And everyone started from zero somewhere. No one's naturally born with like everything in their brain. They learn it and they believe in themselves. And that really is the secret to life.
Wow. Because you were incredibly successful in the corporate world. You were incredibly successful in the startup world too. Looking back, are there any skill sets that were common in creating the success that you've had?
I mean, the skill set that I've always adopted, again, it's like how to manage, people's interactions, relationships, expectations, all those things together. That's how you run a company. That's the most important part, is doing that. So that connection point that I can provide, that being that conduit, has been my big skills that I've across everything I've done. And that crosses the chasm to any job you're ever going to have. So be useful, be the utility man. That's kind of what I think is the best thing to do. And then for startup life, I mean, it's always a struggle, like to keep the lights on. And if you're good at that, you can do anything. So if you can, tell a really concise and direct and story that you truly believe is the truth, you'll be able to find supporters. Supporters come in many ways. They can be advisors, they can be early teammates, co-founders, they could be investors. But it takes a huge amount of things around you to build something. And I think most people think it's not like that. Like the solo founder is kind of never a solo founder. It may be a figure of one person, but there's like, 30, 40, 50 people they stood on their shoulders beforehand to get there. And I've embraced that now. Like, I used to be more of like a solo wolf person, but totally like I need help all the time. I ask for it. And that's when things start to happen. When you get good people who like believe in what you're doing and you can be a part of a team.
This is The Art of Commerce, featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. If you found value in today's episode, follow the show, leave a review, and stay tuned for more insights for the minds reshaping modern marketing.